Fifth graders, this week for grammar, we're learning about commas and transitional conjunctions. Some conjunctions tell where, when, why, how, or under what conditions. They function as transitions. These conjunctions include words like after, although, as, because, before, if, since, so that, until, when, whether, and while. The conjunction can appear at the beginning of a complex sentence or in the middle. If the sentence begins with a conjunction, a comma should follow the last word in that part of the sentence. So last week we worked with conjunctions that came in the middle of the sentence, and, but, or, and we learned that we need to put a comma and then a conjunction. But this week with our transitional conjunctions, the rules are going to change just a little bit. So let's take some time to review and practice. Again, up at the top here, you can see that combining two related ideas with a conjunction other than and, but, or is called a complex sentence. So last week with these conjunctions it was a compound, but now we're working on complex. And again we have these examples of some possible transitional conjunctions. As a reminder, if the complex sentence begins with a conjunction, then a comma should follow the last word in that part of the sentence. Sometimes the comma is unnecessary if the conjunction appears in the middle of the sentence. So that's a big difference from our conjunctions we used last week. So let's take a look at our practice problems. We'll do these together. We are going to combine each sentence using one of the transitional conjunctions in parentheses, whichever one makes the most sense. And then we'll have to decide how we need to edit this sentence a little bit to make sure we have proper capitalization and correct punctuation. So sentence number 1, I can use my transitional conjunction because, or I can use although. So my sentences say, the Hubble telescope must be powerful. It can spot a firefly 10,000 miles away. So would it make more sense to use because or although? Well, if I try it out, I could say, because the Hubble telescope must be powerful, it can spot a firefly 10,000 miles away. But that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If I put because in the middle of my sentence, it would say, the Hubble telescope must be powerful because it can spot a firefly 10,000 miles away. And that sounds pretty good. I'll go ahead and try although just to make sure because is the best choice. So although the Hubble telescope must be powerful, it can spot a firefly 10,000 miles away. Doesn't sound as good as my last option. Let's try putting although in the middle of our sentence. The Hubble telescope must be powerful, although it can spot a firefly 10,000 miles away. So because in the middle of our sentence sounds the best. So I would insert my transitional conjunction because right here. And remember, since our transitional conjunction is in the middle of our sentence, we do not need a comma. Alright, now that I have the transitional conjunction because, I'm going to have to get rid of this period. We don't need a period there anymore. Again, since because is in the middle of the sentence, I don't need a comma either. This I, though, will change to a lowercase I. And my sentence now says, the Hubble telescope must be powerful because it can spot a firefly 10,000 miles away. And that is my complex sentence. Number 2, I was feeling brave. I saw how fast the multi-axis trainer was spinning. So I can use the words so that or before as my transitional conjunctions. And I think the word before will make the most sense. I was feeling brave before I saw how fast the multi-axis trainer was spinning. So I'm going to insert before in the middle of my two sentences to make my complex sentence. I can get rid of the period. The I will stay capitalized since it's the pronoun I. We need to have that there. So we crossed off the period. And now I was feeling brave before I saw how fast the multi-axis trainer was spinning. Again, I don't need that comma because my transitional conjunction is coming in the middle of my two simple sentences. Number Number 3, Bethany held on to the 5DF chair. The kids practiced moving along the wall. I can use while or because. And I think that while makes the most sense. I could either say, while Bethany held on to the 5DF chair, the kids practiced moving along the wall. Or I could say, Bethany held on to the 5DF chair while the kids practiced moving along the wall. But to give you a good example of how to use your transitional conjunction at the beginning, we're going to go with that first choice. While Bethany held on to the 5DF chair, the kids practiced moving along the wall. Now, because it's at the beginning of the sentence, at the end of that first part, the end of that first simple sentence, I'm going to replace my period with a comma. I can also make my T lowercase, and Bethany will stay capitalized since it's a proper noun. So my sentences combined into a complex sentence now say, while Bethany held on to the 5DF chair, the kids practiced moving along the wall. All right, finally, number 4. The moon does not have an atmosphere. There is no wind to blow the prince away. I can use until or since. I think I'm going to do since. Since the moon does not have an atmosphere, there is no wind to blow the prince away. So again, if I insert it at the beginning of my sentence, I'm starting with a transitional conjunction. Since the moon, and my T no longer needs to be capitalized, so I make my line through it, so I know it's lowercase now. Since the moon does not have an atmosphere, comma, because I started with my conjunction, there, with a lowercase t, is no wind to blow the prince away, period. So now I have my complex sentence. You are going to go ahead and do some practice with complex sentences. Make sure you think about your options and which transitional conjunction will make the most sense, and whether it makes the most sense at the beginning of your sentence with a comma after the first part of your sentence, or whether it makes sense to put it in the middle and you won't need that comma at all.